rahmatullah. It is a pleasure to meet you again in these recordings in which we introduce the subject of morphology. In the previous lecture, we have explained the expression of word structure, and we said that it consists of a word structure consists of two main components, roots and affixes. We have explained the term root, and we have explained the term affix, and we have given the types of each of them. All of what we have said so far are called morphological units. So the technical terms which are used to express morphology or to speak about morphological units are either morpheme or allomorph. We are going to see later on that allomorphs are just variations in the realization of a morpheme. So let's start by defining the concept of morpheme, which is a basic concept in morphology. In every subject of theoretical linguistics, starting from phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, there are basic units or minimal units. So, for example, in phonetics, the minimal unit is the phone or the sound. In phonology, the minimal unit is the phoneme. In syntax, the minimal unit is the sentence or the phrase. In semantics, the minimal unit is the sememe or the meaning. And in morphology, likewise, the minimal unit is the morpheme. So what's a morpheme? You can find different kinds of definitions. I'll give you here two definitions, but both of them, they are complementary. In the first definition, which is due to Fatima Sadiqi and Muhannaji in their famous book, Introduction to Modern Linguistics, the morpheme is defined as the smallest meaningful unit in a language. However, this definition is not that accurate because it doesn't account for some units, morphological units, which don't have an intrinsic meaning, like prepositions, like inflections, which are added to verbs or to words. For example, the S, it has no meaning and it's a morpheme. The S can be added to the noun to express the plural. It can be added to the verb to express the third person singular. It can be added to another noun to express the possessive, and so on. So this definition is not accurate because it speaks just about meaningful units. Another definition which I think is more comprehensive, it states that the morpheme is the smallest linguistic unit which has a meaning or a grammatical function. This definition, of course, is more comprehensive because it accounts for meaningful morphemes such as door, car, eat, go, so on, as well as it accounts for morphemes like the S in cats, or the suffix less in careless, or the functional elements such as prepositions at, in, on, or the articles a, they, and so on. So as you can see, we will adopt the second definition in what comes of our lectures. There are different types of morphemes depending on the criteria in which you classify them. So we start by one famous classification which classifies morphemes into free and bound. So free morphemes are just morphemes which can stand by themselves and which do not need to be attached to another morpheme or another word. So these morphemes cannot be broken down into smaller meaningful units, into smaller meaningful parts or units. They are roots. Most of the time, monomorphemic words are free morphemes by definition. What we have described as free morphemes falls into two categories. There are lexical morphemes and functional morphemes. Before explaining lexical and functional morphemes, we first gave a definition to bound morphemes because we have said we are going to classify morphemes into free and bound. So what are bound morphemes? Bound morphemes are, as the adjective designates or indicates, they cannot stand by themselves or on their own. They never exist as words by themselves. They need to be attached to other morphemes or words. Notationally, this is shown by dashes which precede or follow follow and precede the morphemes. These morphemes can also be classified into two other types with respect to their intrinsic functions, derivational or inflectional. So as we have seen in the previous slide, free morphemes can be classified into lexical and functional morphemes. Bound morphemes can also be classified into derivational and inflectional morphemes. We're going to see, the meaning of each of these classifications. So as you can see, the subtypes of free morphemes are lexical, functional, and the subtypes of bound morphemes are derivational and inflectional. Lexical, now let's see the definition of lexical and functional morphemes. Lexical morphemes are morphemes which have a lexical or dictionary meaning. They are the set of ordinary nouns, adjectives, verbs, which carry the content of messages we convey. The following are examples from English, like boy, man, sad, long, open. They are also called open categories because other items can be added to them. You can add new verbs to English, you can add new nouns, new adjectives, and so on. And that's part of one of the characteristics of human language, which is creativity. Whereas functional or grammatical morphemes are called closed categories because you cannot add new items to them. You cannot add new prepositions, new articles. Those that existed, they continue to exist and they don't change. You don't add new items to them. So free morphemes are not necessarily lexical in the sense that they do not have a lexical meaning. Free morphemes consist largely of functional words in the language, such as conjunctions, prepositions, articles, pronouns. The following examples from English are free morphemes but have a typical grammatical meaning, like and, but, when, because, on, near, there, of, and so on. There are other corresponding morphemes, functional morphemes in Arabic, like fi, min, ala, ma, and so on. As we have said for free morphemes, we can also say the same for bound morphemes. They can be divided into two types, derivational and inflectional. Derivational morphemes, as their name indicates, are types of morphemes which derive or help form new lexical items. These morphemes change either the meaning or part of speech of the word they attach to. They change the meaning, like we have seen before, when you say lock, unlock. It's the opposite. The unlock is the opposite of lock. The verb is the same. We have the verb in both cases, but we have changed the meaning. But sometimes derivational morphemes change the grammatical category of the word. When we say happy, becomes happily. That's an adjective. Happy becomes an adverb, happily. Or active or act, that's a verb or a noun, which becomes active, an adjective. Or activation, again, a noun from an adjective. And the adjective also is derived from a noun or a verb, and so on. These are called derivational morphemes. Derivational morphemes can be classified by themselves into two subcategories. There are those derivational morphemes which are grammatical class changing, and those derivational morphemes which are grammatical class maintaining. Those which are grammatical class changing, as I have said, they change the grammatical class of a word from a noun to a verb, from a verb to a noun, adjective to a verb, and so on. An example, like if you have a word like quickness, it changes the part of speech of quick from an adjective into a noun. You have in front of you in the chart other example. You have read, becomes readable. Verb becomes adjective. Employ, under verb, which becomes a noun when you say employer. Nationality, you have national, which is an adjective and becomes a noun by nationality. Care, which is a verb or a noun, which becomes an adjective, careless, and so on. The second subpart of derivational morphemes is called grammatical class maintaining. Okay, they are that kind of morphemes which do not affect the grammatical class of the root or the stem they attach to, but they change the meaning of the word. Okay, like the prefix "an" in English. There are quite considerable number of examples in front of you in the chart. You have the verb frost, which becomes defrost. As you can see, the verb is still the same; it doesn't change, but you have changed the meaning. We have ex-precedent. Okay, you have precedent, which becomes ex-precedent. Okay, adjective in both cases, but the meaning has changed. You have sane, which becomes insane, and so on. You can go on like that. There is a remark here. Okay, in the English language, okay, grammatical class change in derivational morphemes can be either prefix or suffix, like the examples you have in front of you. Teacher, okay, from teach you have teacher. From normal you have norm, you have normal, and so on. Here we have a suffix which has changed the grammatical class. You can also have prefixes which change the grammatical class, like okay, in the examples of the adjective large, which becomes enlarge. Okay, courage, which becomes encourage. Light, which is a noun, which becomes enlight. Okay, it becomes a verb. Okay, whereas the grammatical class maintaining derivational morphemes can only be prefixes. Okay, but never suffixes. You have to remember this and never forget it. Okay, grammatical class maintaining derivational morphemes can only be prefixes, but never suffixes. The examples you have in front of you: do and do, frost, defrost, leave, outlive, and so on. Now, the last type of bound morphemes, okay, is inflectional morphemes. What we have seen so far are just derivational bound morphemes. Okay. Oh, by the way, all derivational morphemes are bound morphemes, and all inflectional morphemes are also bound morphemes. So the second type of bound morphemes is inflectional morphemes. Inflectional morphemes change neither the meaning nor the grammatical class of words. They just add an extra information to words. Okay? They mark such distinctions as the singular, the plural, contrast in nouns, the tenses in verbs, the comparative contrast in adjectives, and so on. Okay, here are some examples. We have a list of inflectional morphemes in English. You have the plural, which is expressed by S, the genitive, which is expressed by S, the present tense third person singular, which is also expressed by S. So as you can see, one morpheme can fulfill three different functions: plural, genitive, and third person singular. And you can find the same phenomena in other languages. We have the past tense, which is expressed by ed or en, by the past part, which expresses the past participle. You have ing, okay, participle, which expresses either the gerund or the present participle. You have the comparative er, you have the separative est, and so on. Thank you very much, and see you in the next recording.